So here we are again. Like I say, I don't really know what to talk about, but maybe my journey of no, journey's the right word, but maybe my efforts to achieve some type of work-life balance type of thing. And I don't know if that's really the right term either, but I didn't. Excuse me. I didn't really start work till I was about 34, full-time work. I had always been, I had a bit of a history with drug and alcohol abuse, and that kept me out of the workforce for about a decade and a half, 2 decades. But I'd done a university course in acting. I'd done the first 2 years, but left, and then got some acting experience and joined a theatre company, and got some really great actor training with a guy called Richard Hayes Marshall. His theatre history comes from working with Jacques Lecoq over in France, and human movement and things like that. And so I worked with him for about 3 years, and basically my drinking kind of got out of control, and he kind of said, you either get your shit together or you get out. And I knew I wasn't going to get my shit together, so I got out. And basically went pretty crazy for a few years, again with alcohol and abuse and drug abuse. Then kind of got, okay, I really do need to get my shit together, or I'm not going to be around for much longer. So I ended up going to a rehab, staying there for 12 months, and going down to university and finishing my degree in stage and screen performance. Putting together, this is way back in like the 90s, right? Early 90s, putting together late 90s, early 2000s, and putting together a bit of a portfolio of work that can come back up to Sydney and get an agent. So I did that, and then I started getting acting work, and that was great. And 50 worders on various soaps and guest starring, and sounds better than what it is, but guest starring in various episodes of soaps and dramas going on at the time in Australia, and a few ads, a lot of ads, and they paid well and everything like that, but I never actually got to a level of achievement that I wanted to get to. So when I was 34, I thought, you know what, I might just pack this acting business in and see if I can go get a real job, because I've never really had one of those. So I got a job selling advertising on the back of shopping dockets, and that was fun. It's the first full-time job I've had since I was 19. When I left school when I was 16 and worked on the railways for 3 years, and then went back to university, and that was the last job I ever really had. So I'm selling advertising on the back of these shopping dockets and ringing up companies and cold calling companies, and found out I was quite good at it, and people seemed to like me when I talked to them on the phone, and I did that for a year, and it was really strange, because remember, I'm 34, never really had a full-time job, and I couldn't believe that, because as an actor you work and then you stop working. So you might get a day or 2 days or 3 days worth of work on a TV show or an ad. You go up, you do your scenes, and then you're gone. You get paid good money. You get paid very good money for what you do, but you might not work again for 3 or 4 weeks, or 3 or 4 months, depending on how the industry's going. So that's what I knew was work, and it was weird that I would go to a job, do the job, go home, and then go back the next day to the same job. I'd never experienced that. And then you go back the next day, and it's the same job with the same people. I'd never experienced that. As an actor, you don't experience that. Unless you're in a play and you're on stage, you're doing a run, and then obviously you go back to the theatre every night and so on and so forth. That's great. I prefer theatre acting to any other type of acting, but film and TV is where the money is, so you got to go where the money is. But yeah, I've reached 34 and I thought, you know what, I don't think this is, I'm still like living week to week. You get paid good money when you do work, but then you got to pay everybody back that you owe because you borrow money through the downtime. And look, screw this, I'm just going to get a job. So I'm selling advertising on the back of these shopping dockets, and it's good fun, you know. And when you take holidays, you get a pay. They pay you to take holidays, which I'd never got. For me, that was just unemployment. Okay, so it was a total mind shift is what is on offer when you work. So I thought, okay, this is okay, but I've been doing this job for about a year now, and I'm pretty sick of selling advertising on the back of shopping dockets. And I heard of an industry called corporate hospitality, and that's where you sell high-end VIP sports packages to companies so that they can take their clients or their staff along to these events. You know, rugby league grand final, AFL grand final, state of origin, Leslie Cup, cricket, that kind of thing. I thought, oh, I wonder what that's like. And I got a job working for this company, and I looked around. I thought, none of the guys here are rocket scientists. These aren't geniuses. What they're really good at is getting on the phone and talking sport to CEOs, managing directors, and that C-level suite executive that can afford to or has the authority to sign off on a $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 check. So I thought, okay, I can do that. I'll have a go and see if I can do this. So I got stuck into it. I became really good at it, and I did that for one company for 10 years. You know, and I can't say I was the best in the country at it, but I was always in the top 3 or 4 in the country at it. You know what I mean? I was making good money. I was making 200 plus grand a year, year in, year out, back to back, and because you know you get paid commission on what you sell. When I started, my base was $12,000 a year, okay, which is not a lot of money, but you made money on your comms. And as I stayed there longer, obviously my base, you know, crept up. It's always hard to get money out of bosses. They never want to pay you more money. They want you to work harder and make them more money. I get that, but they never want to actually part with their cash as a base. Salesmen work best when they're lean and hungry, and they need to make the sale in order to pay the rent. That's when a salesman focuses really hard and really intently and gets the job done. So I did that for 10 years, and then I thought, you know what? Making 230 grand a year is good, but wouldn't it be great to make 600 grand a year? I'm not going to be able to do that in this job. I've kind of hit that ceiling. So I thought, what I need to do is leave this job and start my own business, working in the same industry. And I did that, and I found out very quickly I am quite a talented and capable salesman, but I am an awful businessman. I just didn't know how to write or how to manage a business. So yeah, that ended very badly, and that's where I had to go bankrupt, and you know, life kind of fell apart. But one of the things that I learnt, I learned during that time is you got to know when to call it quits. And I should have called it quits 2-3 years before I went bankrupt, and it was my pride and ego just didn't want me to fail. Like, I was never going to make that business a success because I didn't know how to run a business. I knew how to sell, and I just thought if I sell enough, I'll be fine. But I never knew how to run a business, and yeah, that was a very hard lesson to learn. But learning when to call it quits and when to detach from my own ego and go, look, this isn't working, it's not going to work, and you should fold it. So that's what I mean, I learned that lesson the hard way. I would have saved myself a lot I'd probably still be married, I'd probably still have my superannuation, I'd probably still have enough money to buy another house and you know, take it from there. But I basically rode it into the ground until I was basically psychologically and emotionally, physically and actually bankrupt. And that's when, like, it was a real turning point for me where I had to address the underlying root causes of my problem with life and my problem with myself, and how I just do not act in my own best interest. And that's, the last couple of years has been a major time of reflection for me, looking at who I am, who I think I should be versus who I actually am. What are my greatest fears? What do I do to conquer those fears or avoid those fears? And how I actually deal with life. So that's been an interesting couple of years, and very tough. I never wish it on my worst enemy. It's been really hard with my I mean, I suppose, you know, from one perspective, all I ever wanted was have a wife and family and just live that, you know, storybook life. But that's so not me. That's just so not who I am, or who I've ever been. That doesn't mean I can't have that. It just means that I've got to learn how to have that in a workable situation. So that brings us to this point. Where I am right now is it's almost like when, if I can use this as a metaphor, when you're driving a manual car and you have to change gears. So the revs hit a certain point, it's time to change gears, and you change gears. But while you're changing gears, you lose a bit of momentum. Right? You lose a bit of, there's just a slight momentum shift. And then you find the next gear, and then the momentum picks up. So I suppose for the last couple of years, I've been losing that momentum shift, if you like. But what's that allowed me to do is actually gather myself, find some solid basis from which I can operate life from, and then move forward. And I'm just about to move forward into that forward shift now. And for me, that means, you know, looking at different skills that I want to write and create stories, and, you know, I'm an actor and I like to perform, and, you know, no one's lining up, you know, with a checkbook saying, you know, come act for us. So to re-enter that particular field is going to be a little bit, I've got to navigate that a little bit. That's fine, but there's a whole bunch of skills I want to learn. One of them is writing. One of them is producing. How do you actually produce, you know, content or a movie or a TV show? So there's a whole bunch of things that's really exciting that I want to learn how to do that I don't know how to do. So it's a big stage of growth. I suppose I'm the wounds we all get wounded in life in various forms, and I suppose you can't deny those wounds. They're there, they're real, they happen to everybody. And I suppose it's about, this is going to sound a bit, you know, woo-woo fairy magic, but it's about, for me, it's about allowing God to come back into my life and heal those wounds, so that I can move forward and be a better person, or be a more rounded person through going through the trauma of life and being broken apart, so to speak, and God being a part of my life now that can hold that together, and I move forward from here with God. I don't know how much time we have left on this earth, or I have left on this earth. You could die in the next 20 minutes, you don't know. Or you could live another 30, 40 years. but with whatever time I got left, that I can put together a body of work or some work that I can, not that I want to have a legacy or anything, I just want to be able to present something to the world to say, this is what I think, or this is my experience, and show it to them. And that might seem a little narcissistic, because who the hell am I? But who the hell am I? Doesn't matter. And I think it's not something that I want to do. I think it's something that I need to do. We're all going to die, and we're all going to leave a memory in someone's mind, whether it be our children's, maybe it's our friends. I've had friends that have died, and I don't think about them often, but every now and again they'll come back into my mind, and I really enjoy those moments I've had with them, and I miss them. And I think that as a storyteller, or as someone that wants to entertain others, it's not so much a want. I think it's more of a need, and it's something that's pulling me forward. And I don't necessarily want to embrace it, because I'm 54 and he wants to start again at 54, right? But I think it's something that I do need to do to satisfy my own self, that own desire and need inside of me. And whether it be good or not, or whether it be successful or not, hopefully I can create something of value and that people like. And but if I don't, well then, such is life. I've still created something of value to me, and I've still created something that I like to me. And I suppose at the end of the day, that's what I'm really looking to satisfy, is to be able to create something that I'm pleased with. And I don't mean that from a selfish, self-centered, self-satisfied point of view, but just something that resonates with me. And I think if I can do something or create something that resonates with me, well then it might resonate with other people as well. So that's more or less where I'm at the moment. And we were just talking earlier about my work situation. Without being arrogant or having false modesty, I'm pretty good at what I do. And what I do is I connect and I communicate with people over the telephone that are looking for a product or a service. So I sell stuff over the phone. And like I remember I was doing it back when I was selling corporate hospitality on a cold call, right? To the CEO of a major airport, like the CEO of the airport. I got his number and I gave him a call, and it was a cold call. Went for about 4 minutes, and I sold him a $50,000 package to go to the AFL Grand Final, and in about 3 or 4 minutes, and that was that's the kind of stuff I can do. So there's some talent there, and the job I'm working for, the company I'm working for at the moment is a brilliant company. I love it. We do a really great service. We deliver on what we promise, and we change people's lives. We change families' lives, and we really add a huge amount of value to the customer's life. But I'm kind of overselling. I'm not overselling. I'm kind of done with selling. It's and I find it really hard to work 5 days a week. And so what we've done with my job is I'm basically just working 3 days a week, and what we've found is I make a lot more sales. I'm a lot happier, and I make a lot more money for the business and also for me and also for my clients. I provide a lot more value when I'm working 3 days a week as opposed to 5, and that's something that's it means I'm under a little bit more pressure because I've got to make my sales in 60% of the time, but I end up making more sales in that 60% than I do with it making when I'm working 100%. Excuse me. My boss said I'm like an impact player in rugby league. I'm on the bench, I come on for 20-30 minutes, I hit it hard, and in those 20 minutes, 30 minutes, I have a huge impact on the game. And then I come off because I'm done. So it's a little bit like that. Now, balancing that with getting the right amount of money coming in, I get paid commissions monthly, so there can be a bit of a lag between, say, a base, which is fairly minimal. But the business is a good business, and I should be able to make that work. That's going to give me a lot more free time to do things like this, to put towards my writing, to do some other activities that I want to do. So that's that. That's that. What else do you want to talk about?
Talk about your experience. Not your experience. What do you think about corporate life, like corporate
life,
like businesses and stuff?
Yeah, like are we talking like mainstream corporate world?
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, mainstream corporate world.
Yeah.
Well, we need to work as human beings. We do need to work, whether it be digging a field or financial engineering. Yeah. I think that capitalism is a little like democracy in the sense that I think it was Winston Churchill that said democracy is a terrible form of government, but it's better than anything else we got. Okay. The fact that everybody gets a vote, what idiot thought of that? Because half the people are bloody dumb as rocks, and the other half are whatever. But you know what I mean. But everybody does get a vote, and it's the best form of government we got compared to everything else. So capitalism is a little like that. Everybody has to work and everybody has to make money. We can't live without money. We need money. Okay, we exchange goods and services, whether it be $1 million Ferrari or whether it be a bedspread. You know what I mean? We all need money. We all need to pay for things. Gee, this is a big topic, man. It's a little like a machine. Working in those corporate environments, it is a little bit like a machine. And everybody is a worker bee, whether they're the guy, typically in the mail room. I don't know whether they have mail rooms anymore. I don't ever know whether a business ever had a mail room, but I've seen it on shows. But whether it be you're at the bottom or you're at the top, you're still a worker bee. Okay. Some workers get paid more for their hour, and that's because society is deemed that the role they're performing, has more value. Okay, so they get paid more. Sales guys, which is what I'm most familiar with, we get paid for performance. Okay, so it's a little like you don't get paid for the hour, you get paid for the value that you bring to the hour. And the heart of economics is scarcity. The less there is of something, the more value it has because it's rare. There's not a lot of it. So to be a really top-notch, top 2-3% sales guy, top 1% sales guy, you're going to make a lot of money because not everyone can do it. Not everyone can do that level of performance to generate value for the business. But you're a worker bee the same as everybody else. I'm not sure it's so good for our mental health to be working 50, 60, 70 hours a week. I think that in the way that a company is structured, certain roles need to be performed in order for that company to run smoothly. and what we do is that we take ourselves and we make ourselves fit that particular role. And for a lot of people, and this for me included, this has happened, where that role now becomes who I am. Okay, that role now becomes this is what I am. I do X, and that's just a role that I perform. But it can become my total identity in order to fulfill that role, add value to the company so the company moves smoothly. And I think that's a real shame when we do that. I remember, this is years and years and years ago, I was going out with this girl, very smart, very intelligent, very capable, right? She was like 23 and I was 30, so I was a bit older than her. I think she might have been 24. Beautiful girl, loved her to death. But I could see she's very smart, very capable, did a double major, commerce and marketing, and was ready to go take on the corporate world and everything like that. And I said to her, no job is ever going to love you back. No job is ever going to love you back. She didn't know what it meant, but she, poor girl, she did this. She did the whole, I want a career, and I want to go travel, and that wasn't me. And we only went out for about a year or so, maybe less. I love this woman, by the way. And I don't know, she said she loved me, but I don't think she did. Who knows? We split up because she couldn't handle my past. Basically, I had a pretty real polar opposites when it comes to life experience. Anyway, she went overseas, she travelled, she did all of that. She had a great life, got married, then turned, I think it was 35, and decided now she wants to have kids. And then she couldn't have kids. She found it very difficult to get pregnant, which is a real shame and really broke her heart. But that's look, there are consequences to every action we make, and if from a female point of view, it's really difficult, because I know that women are expected these days to go out there and have a career and be an empowered woman and all this kind of stuff. And the story goes that once you've had your career and you've travelled, you had your fill, whether that be work, men, experiences, whatever, then it's time to settle down and get married and have kids. But human body's doesn't work that way for women that well. And as a woman gets older, it's more difficult for her to actually conceive and have children. And I know I know a few people that have experienced that, and that's really hard, because that's one of the things I really wanted to do. But so working, and being part of that machine can sometimes go against who we are organically as people, as human beings, as in one sense as animals, right? I think we're a tribe species. We want to be part of the herd, and work is a really good way to fit in. You know what I mean? It's a really good way to belong to a place. But at the end of the day, that can change in a dime. That can change in a dime. And no job is ever going to love me back. No job is ever going to love me back, no matter how good I am at it. I need other people to love me. And if a lot of what we do, we trap ourselves and we become slaves. Slavery has always been a part of who we are as a species. Civilization wouldn't have become what it is today without slavery. I'm not talking about black American slavery. I'm talking about slavery since year dot. We've always had slaves. We've always conquered people. I'm talking historically, tens and hundreds of thousands of years ago. We've always conquered other people and made them work for us. And today what we've got is we've become economic slaves. So yeah, we're not chained, no one owns us, we're not chattel, right? But what we are mortgage holders, okay? We are mortgage holders, and that's today's modern day slavery. As society progresses and as technology develops, and we get things like phones, we get things like, cars and houses, and advertising and marketing, create an image that we want to achieve because everyone looks really happy when they've got, you know, the new car and, you know, white teeth. My teeth are really bad. I got to get them fixed. They're actually really bad. But you know, we want to be happy and successful, and we're sold an image that if we that we can be, and I believe we can be, but we don't need. You don't need everything to be happy and successful. You can be happy and successful a little bit, but part of the way that we're designed is that we want a little bit, then a little bit more, and I think that work is one of those things. It can be a trap where we if I work harder, I'm going to get a promotion. That means I get a pay rise. If I get a pay rise, I can afford X, Y, Z. If I get a pay rise, I can take my family to Fiji for a holiday, as opposed to down the south coast to a holiday. You know what I mean? So I'm going to work that extra, the extra hours, and I'm going to get that extra promotion, right? The only problem is, while I'm working those extra hours, I'm not, you know, with my children, right? Because I stay back till 6, 7, 8 o'clock. My young kids, they go to bed when they're young. They go to bed 6, 7, 8 o'clock. So I don't really see them. I'm missing out. Not only that, I get the pay rise, I get the promotion, I get the pay rise, but I also get a whole heap of responsibility now. So believe it or not, I can't go on that trip to Fiji. I send my wife and my kids on a trip to Fiji. I've actually done this. They've gone and had a great time, but I've been at work. I can't go. I've got this responsibility now, right? But you guys go. You have a great time, and then not being bitter. My wife comes back from the holiday and says, "Oh, by the way, our marriage isn't working. Pack a bag and get out." Or if you're hearing this, sorry, I don't mean that. But that's what happened. So being part of the corporate world can be can be tricky, because what you're doing is that you're basically giving up a huge wedge of your life to a company that, if circumstances change, would let you go. No, sorry, economic downturn, we've got to let a whole bunch of people go. You're one of them. See, mate. But I've been here 10 years. I've given my life to this company. Sorry, pal. Can't afford to keep it. You know, that's why being a sales guy is an advantage, because the one thing a company needs is sales. No one gets paid unless something is sold. Okay, so being part of the sales team and being in the upper echelon of the sales team is your job is pretty secure, because you're an income provider. You're a profit centre for the business, as opposed to being a cost centre for the business. It's interesting because there are a whole bunch of other rules that you've got to follow. It can stifle development. In today's world, you know, you say the wrong thing in the office, man, HR, you're gone. There's a written warning. All I did was say hello. Yeah, it was the way you said it. That person didn't feel safe. Why? Oh, I said nice dress. Oh, that's a microaggression. Okay. I'll just ignore him. That's ostracizing. Okay. Fuck. Can a man win? But yeah. I don't know. It's like I said, it's a little bit like democracy. It's a crappy way to do it, but it's the best that we know so far. Yeah, I think emotions. One of the things that I think about a little bit sometimes is, what is emotion? Where does it come from? How does it shape the way I see things? Is it a valid emotion? Is it an emotion based on something that's real, or emotion based on on something that that I'm in delusion about, perhaps. Um, you know, how much does emotion drive who I am and who we are as human beings, and also, you know, how much is emotion just a biological reaction of my brain just processing certain chemicals, and what's necessary and what's unnecessary emotion. I mean, it's interesting to maybe just look at that for a little bit, and do we let emotion colour our lives too much? Is emotion just how I see things, and it comes from my history of who I am and everything like that, and how I view something today is seen through a lens that historically, from all the different emotions and experiences that I've had, that's the lens that I view that today with. So how accurate is that? Because everyone has a bias, their own particular bias, based on their past lived experience, and that means that sometimes I can see things not as they are, but not objectively, but subjectively, through my own lived experience, and that can distort the truth, because I'm not seeing it as it is, I'm seeing it as I see it. And so emotions are very important, but where do they come from? What is an emotion? Is it just a chemical reaction that my body produces? Fear is a very primal instinct, and I suppose you could say we see the life, human beings see life through a prism of fear, and then they put parameters in of what they can and can't do based on what that fear is, and that can sometimes limit a person. But fear is an important thing. We need to have it. If we don't have it, we could do things that are really dangerous and die. But I think that things like fear of missing out, I know that's like been a term or whatever. Fear of missing out, fear of what other people think, fear of my own mortality and death, versus being able to live in the moment. So fear can be a really good thing, but it can also be a very, very destructive thing. And fear for me, it's a really deep question. And there's everybody has a past, everybody has their history, and mine's no important or not less important than anybody else's. But for fear of not being accepted has been a huge fear in my own life, and that need to be accepted. And early on in my life, very early on in my life, there was some pretty traumatic type of abuse, not necessarily sexual, but very physical and emotional abuse. And what that seemed to set in place at a very, very early point in my life was that I'm not really, I'm not a very nice person, and I'm not a very good person, and that basically came about. I won't go into detail, but it came about from just being put in the care of a woman that didn't
didn't really know how to deal with a young boy as a caregiver. And that was really, I think that gave me a very early belief of low self esteem, a very early sense of um, a worthwhile human being. And then having to do, um, you're not gonna like me. I say this as a 54-year-old man, it sounds a bit twee, but when you're a 4, 5, or 6-year-old little boy, it's very, very powerful. And I basically lived a lot of my life, uh, consciously and unconsciously, knowing that I wasn't I wasn't very good, and if I didn't make you laugh or please you, well then you were going to kill me. That's what I learned when I was like 4 years old, 5 years old. Okay, through this woman, a perfect script. Now, how has that affected me in my emotional development? From what they are, how we interpret them, and everything like that. I developed a lot of coping mechanisms to survive through school. I was always picked on at school, but it taught me how to fight. You know what I mean? Like I'd stand up. I lost a lot of fights, but I won a few as well. But it kind of wrote the script for me early on, and I suppose that might have played a role in my alcoholism and drug addiction as well, and other addictions. You know, and how I developed as a going through adolescence and young adulthood, having that almost like back of my mind, it's constant. You're not really aware of it because it's so constant. It's just a low humming, almost unconscious belief that you're not good enough. And that's how I lived a lot of my life. Maybe that's why I like acting, because I get to put on somebody else's life. You know what I mean? And I get to perform for others. And I get to make them happy if it's comedy, or I make them feel something if it's a drama. Or a personal sense of satisfaction that, because, an artist needs an instrument, and for the actor, it's him or her, right? But it's him. And it's the character. And then performing that character for an audience that they get to feel an emotion as well, whether that be joy or sadness or curiosity, whatever it is, they get to experience that as well through being an observer or an audience participant, and that's an interesting use of emotion. I'll tell you what I really like doing. I like writing, whether it be poetry or prose, but prose is hard work. Poetry is like falling over in the mud. It just happens. So it's not really hard work. It just happens. But what I really like doing is putting words together and creating imagery that evoke emotion, that pull the reader into the story, right? And then just create emotion by the words that they're reading, and that creates an image in their head, and it creates an emotion within there that takes them on a bit of a journey and takes them out of that moment and into the moment of the actual story. I really like doing that. Words are funny, because when we create a word, we define. Oh, gee, it's like there's 1,000 billion choices to make, but when you make one choice, you've actually chosen to not make all the other choices, right? because you made one choice. So when you create a work, what I try to do is I try to take this ephemeral, abstract, timeless, spaceless, without form emotion letters that create words that can translate that emotion so that when someone reads it, that emotion transfers from that group of words into their hearts and minds so that they feel that same abstract, ephemeral, formless emotion. We put it into word form, and then that emotion then leaps. I don't know if leaps is the right word, but that emotion transfers itself off the page into them, which I find that fascinating. We overtook the country and basically stole it from us, which is more or less what happened. That would be really hard to grow up in that civilization. I'd be angry too. I really would. But, and here's the thing. I would recognize that happened, and I would want that to be a recognised part of history, right? A recognised part of history and an acknowledgement of that. Okay? And that would something that wouldn't, I don't think that would leave me, that would be an anger that would sit with me, that would burn, right? Slow burn. But I would then get on with it. And I would go, this is the way it is. And we can't change the past. But what can we do now to improve the what of my people? That's, if I put myself in that situation, I'd have an anger. And I don't think it'd be a passing anger. I think it'd stay, be forgotten. Right? Of what, colonisation has done to the indigenous population. And I'd be very proud of that population. I'd be very proud of my history. But then I would recognise that it is what it is. And how do I make the best of that for others that are in that situation? That are of my ilk. And then how do I best rehabilitate or help those that are suffering to get out of suffering and into empowerment. If I was in that situation, I'd probably call Australia Day Invasion Day as well. But it is Australia Day. And that despite the or not despite, but the trauma of being this is a horrible thing to say, but the trauma of being somehow there has to be also alongside of that, without neglecting that or denigrating that or dismissing that in any way, shape or form. There has to be alongside of that, parallel to that, a knowledge and a pride that we're still here, that you hear things like always was, always is, Aboriginal land, and I get that, and it always will be, but at the same time, those two, without neglecting the past or diminishing the past, what actually counts today is today, and we would need to heal as a group of occupied, and I bring those two together and then move forward. That must be a really tough place to be. I don't know how I would go if I was that. I would like to think that I would be able to make that, be able to resolve those two issues. That being part of a nation that was destroyed, but also living in occupied, because that's what it is, occupied zone. We occupied the land, and from an Aboriginal point of view, they're living in an occupied. Their land has been occupied by other people, right? How do you resolve that and move forward? That's a toughie. I really like Stan Grant's. This is going back a few years ago. Stan Grant's impromptu speech, where he said basically, land of the free. Well, my people aren't free. That was a cracker speech, and I think that was. I think that's an issue that we haven't resolved. Nothing changes until we see it as it is. And I think from a justice warrior, I hate social justice warriors. I need their heads punched in, right? But having said that, I'm not going to go wave a flag and say, oh, we need to do this, we need to do this. I'm more along the lines of be the change you want to see in the world. Right? Rather than telling the world to change, you be the change you want to see in the world. So, but I think that much, and I think I might spend some time contemplating that and seeing if I can resolve within my own world, within my own mind, the fact that this is the way it is, and what can I do to be that change that I need the world to be, if you want to know what I mean. Yeah, it's an interesting point. I haven't really given a lot of thought.
Слушай, ты и есть идиот. Самый настоящий идиот. А я на работе. И я работаю тщательно.